Thank you, Frank. So nice to see people again and live. Thank you very much for having me. I want to see my presentation first. I would like to welcome you not only to the first Dresden Robotics Festival, but I would also like to say welcome to the Valley of the Clueless. And for those of you who have never heard that term, Valley of the Clueless actually means a certain region in Germany, and you're in the middle of that right now, where people in the German Democratic Republic didn't have any connection. There was no TV, no access to radio, and the problem was that people just didn't know what was going on somewhere there in the West. And there were studies made actually recently in 2009, and they say that it's proven that people who lived in this area at that time are actually behind. And they were behind for a long time when it came to fashion, to education, and to different fields out there. The point I'm trying to make is that being disconnected means standing still. It means nothing is moving forward. And that's why we need connection. So I was 4 at that time. I probably don't have so much to say about it. Some of you might have better memories to it. But sticking with the topic of connection, I would like to bring up a word that some of you who are not from here, from Germany, might not know, and that's Funkloch. Anyone here who knows Funkloch? Funkloch, come on, you know Funkloch, right? Yeah, quite some people. You drive from Dresden to Berlin, you try to call your mom or your customer, doesn't matter. Probably a good chance you will be disconnected. And what does that do with you? It drives me mad. And the worst case scenario is it costs a lot of money. My name is Anett. I'm working for Wandelbots, and I want to talk about that economies of scale, they need connected robots. So we're talking about manufacturing. I want to talk about industrial robots today. We've seen some quite awesome helper robots here already, or some quite nice AGVs, but we stick with industrial robots. So picking up on Frank's 5G discussion, which was a great fundament for today's talk that I have, it is proven that 5G, or it's expected that 5G will bring sensors of all kinds that we need for proper industrial IoT to connect about anything out there. That theory is clear. They will exceed anything that has been done in the wired or wireless space so far. So that's a basis. We need 5G. No question. Thank you, Frank. Moving forward, this is also the first time I kind of want to speak it out. COVID was not nice. COVID is not nice with toddlers at home. It's not nice for single people at home. We're all being disconnected. It's terrible. But you know what? Thank you, COVID. Because you actually finally woke up a couple of people out there who really didn't like home office or anything else that was a little bit towards digital transformation. We were speeding it up. Within the last 2 years, there has been a huge speed up in digital transformation. And I think World Economic Forum showed this nice graph that actually shows you that the expected acceleration through IoT and through everything connected to that is tremendous and beyond any imagination. But I also want to talk to the people in the room who might not be there yet. You might not have 5,000 robots on your plant or customers who are equipped like that. I'm also talking to people who might just have a little factory, and they are thinking about robots. They know there might be some efficiency gain and some productivity gain. So robots, IoT, and AI, they are a centerpiece of fourth industrial revolution, right? And I think it's also pretty clear by now that probably in about 10 years from now, we have more than 10 times as many robots in production, in private use than today. So there's no question that you should adopt robots at some point. But let's talk quickly about what is those 7 big benefits of robots. I love 7-step models. They usually cover it all. So number one, and on the top of the agenda of any annual report out there, especially in the manufacturing space, safety. You want to get people out of the factory. You want to avoid them chopping up their hands. You want to be safe. Probably robots is your first thought. Number two, you actually want to speed up things. I mean, robots never get tired, right? And they go and go and go, and they never ask you for any salary increase. That's pretty nice, right? So number two is speed. Also, robots are pretty consistent. Teach them once, and they go. And they go to perfectionism. I don't think any human can do in certain areas what robots can do. On top of that, they make your employees quite happy, right? Because you don't need to do that boring crap anymore. This, every day, no thank you. Let's use what we're good at, creativity and generating value. So let's put employees into different positions and create new jobs. Bringing robots into factories actually means having new jobs opened up where people could look into monitoring the robots the right way, maintaining the robots, or maybe even doing something completely different they would love to do. And last but not least, and logically, you have a huge productivity increase with robots. So once we're agreed on these benefits, we're actually really talking digital transformation. So we're not talking about taking some paper files and scanning them, putting them in a folder, digitally transformed. That's not it. We're talking about robots, IoT,
like that.
AI, and topics like that.
So let's continue with the 7 steps.
So let's continue with the 7 steps. I'll stop it after this one, but I do want to take my previous employer. I think Microsoft puts it so well, and they know quite a lot about moving from on-premise up in the cloud and having a transition phase, a hybrid phase for that type of movement. So they say, if you want to be good in digital transformation, you need to, first of all, put a leadership in place who gets it.
That is very different people.
That is very different people. But all of them have one thing in common.
It's the mindset.
It's the mindset. They are open for change and they do understand.
So you need leadership.
That is impactful, not only knowledgeable, but also very good with people, because they will put the seed for all your future teams to take digital transformation to the next level. And then number two, you actually want to drive culture change through effective change management. You probably heard about culture eat strategy for breakfast. That's exactly that. You want to connect your customers, all your assets, and all your people. I mean, that's literally what everybody talks about, and that is customer centricity. One single source of truth. Have some solutions in place that are well connected with the rest in your organizations, because you don't want to have those silos anymore. You need people and assets to communicate with each other based on the awesome connectivity you generated.
And then you want to adopt
a data culture. I know we talk a lot about data. We talk about, oh, we need data scientists, and they need to find all the data, and then clean up all the data, and then structure all that data, and then do something smart with it. We don't know yet what it is, but let's do it. That data culture, it needs to be there. It needs to be in the mind of your people, and then you need the skills to work with that.
And then that's something maybe a little bit
American, but there's something to it. And I do think Germany might need a little bit more push there. We still don't do this trial and error thing enough. And we don't dare, because we want to plan everything ahead. We want to be perfect at what we do. We don't want to fail. We were born not to fail. We need to put that a bit aside and be open
to fail. And to allow our people to fail as well.
It needs to be part of a scorecard that you rather trial and error faster instead of developing a solution that's maybe done in a year and then 3 competitors passed you already. And then start thinking ecosystem.
Start thinking all the people around you.
Start thinking all the people around you, the partners and so on. What can they do for your solution? How can they add value to what you're doing? And last but not least, know your Uber.
There's not just competitors
out there. There are disruptors out there. There are people, maybe in your organization, maybe outside your organization, and businesses you don't see yet. They might invent things you don't expect yet, but they might actually leave you behind. And you can think a little bit about that, and not just about what's your neighbor competitor doing.
So once you're done with that, you're
probably thinking, okay, I'm ready for digital transformation. I'm ready for robots in my plant. how do I do it, and what does it actually cost, right? Important factor.
Usually people say,
oh, we need to do a total cost of ownership analysis, and we need to add a couple of things together.
And then in the cloud space,
that ends up being something like this.
It's not doable.
It's not doable.
Like a proper cloud calculation
in a big
for
organization.
cost
In a big organization,
no matter what
it's not doable. No matter what they tell you.
There's actually just two factors you want to consider.
Are you relevant?
Are you relevant?
And are you competitive?
And are you competitive?
Let me explain that just briefly.
So,
are you relevant means
in the IoT space, have you thought about solutions
that were not there before that might be able to make you be the disruptor?
Have you thought about solutions based on that data that you collected and cleaned up?
That would actually bring completely new services into your portfolio
and generate completely new revenue streams?
That's the way to go.
That's the way to go.
Are you competitive?
And are you competitive?
Are you truly understanding who's around you? Are
you able to actually think about partnerships with people that you maybe considered being your competitors? And to bundle up with them and build new, strong solutions together? It's not always about competition. It's sometimes about partnering up and doing it together. Keeps you competitive as well.
So all of that in place.
Three key points.
We do
want to be connected.
We do
need interoperability. Assets, devices,
all of them
people,
should speak
all of them
the same
should speak
language.
the same language.
They should be able to understand.
They should be able to understand what the other one does. They should have the same fundament.
And then most of all,
you need that mindset.
That mindset is not just any mindset.
And that mindset is not just any mindset, it's a growth mindset.
We cannot stand still.
We cannot stand still. We need to be eager to learn, and we need to be curious to discover new things.
Once you have all of that in place,
we're
ready to go.
We're ready to go.
Except for this one.
So then we look at robots in your factory.
Nowadays,
it looks something like that.
You have
some disconnected robots standing somewhere doing some productive work. That's nice, thank you. And then they communicate with some controllers, and they stand in factories that in worst case are also still disconnected. We're just getting there. I know a couple of companies are really ahead, but it's not so many yet, especially in the small and medium business area.
So where do we want to head?
Once we have the cloud in place, or edge cloud and connectivity, and we have all the sensors?
We want to get to a picture
where we can actually have our robots communicating on the same language with each other, with the devices they are connected to, sending information up into no man's land cloud, and then we add the value on top. It's on the software as a service level, where you, but also third parties from outside add the value to your solution. So let's take, for example, in the robotics space, the idea to look at all the different robot brands and how they are not communicating with each other. So maybe an idea to bring them to communicate to each other? Maybe having a fleet monitor that allows you to actually stand there and see your entire production line, and it doesn't matter if there's a KUKA, a FANUC, a Yaskawa, or whatever, but all of them. Because that's where you can truly generate value out of all of them. Or what if you could have a skill store, or whatever we would call it, where you literally teach a robot to do one thing, no matter in which way you teach that, but you take that skill and put that on another robot, or put that into another factory. Can you imagine how much money and time it can save when you don't have to have 20 developers for a robot who teach each single robot, but you actually copy-paste? There's a lot of imagination possible, but once we're there, we can finally either let people work properly with robots, because it's real time, because they are connected, because they understand each other better. But the ultimate picture is, of course, the lights-off factory. Let's say robots doing that dirty, heavy, repetitive work, and we stay out there and do the things we actually like or we're good at doing. I do want to step back for a second and once more mention the cloud. And that's only to show you where robotic fits in there. I'm sorry to say it once more, but in Germany, we are unfortunately, at least from the outside world, seen as the laggers.
I know we think we have pretty cool inventions out there, and we're pretty strong. Our production is amazing, it really is. But we are laggers when it comes to cloud, and we still are. So now we take it at an international level. We look at the cloud landscape, and it doesn't matter from which year you take Bessemer Ventures Group's picture, but you see there's a lot of competition going on the platform level, on the infrastructure as a service level, and on top of that, that's the biggest space. That's where value is being created. That's where you add value, software as a service. Where is robotics there? I can't see it. We're just starting to build a little ecosystem, all of us together, adding services on the different layers. And we as Wandelbots, of course, chose one of those layers too. And from the complexity possible, we want to help the world take out the maximum complex level. That's the platform layer. On top of that, we want our partners and customers to develop anything they want to develop, be it communication, security, data, whatever you want to do. So what we're trying to do is we're building an agnostic robotic platform. And that platform will have certain software development kits that I'm kind of calling anyone I talk to please look into it, start developing against it, because you can be from a robot OEM, from a connector company, the tool company, or from the PLC companies, but we will have software development kits that allow you to develop against this agnostic platform to then be able to use a lot of services from many different people, from a real ecosystem and not just from one provider. You're not locked in anymore. So we have a couple of companies that are already with us on that journey. And as it is with platforms, we will grow, we want to grow, and we hope you're with us on that journey. Once we're on it together, let's make robots accessible for everyone. Thank you very much.